Okay, great. Good evening. I'm going to call the January 13th, 2026 Agenda Finance and General Government Committee meeting to order. We'll take quick attendance. We have our new council member, Ashok Ramasubramanian.
Present.
We have Jess Brennan. We have Bill McPartlin. We have, do I have Sarah Bolofsky?
You do.
And Kara Parks. We have not Alina, but we have our new deputy town attorney. Stepule. Michelle is here, I believe, somewhere. Hi. Okay, we have Michelle, we have Josh, we have Ray, we have Diane, we have Eric, we have Dan, Laura, Kelly. We have and we have Deputy Chief Twitty. We have 2 members of the public and Mr. Remsnyder. And we also have special guest star Phil Sapone from Raptelis. So very excited for that presentation. Okay, we're going to do a quick approval of minutes, and then we're going to kick it off with the Raptelis presentation. This will be carved out of the meeting as it's filmed after the fact, and we're going to put that portion on the Water and Sewer website, so you don't have to kind of rush around for it. We also have a resident who is gracious enough to help us with an FAQ. So if you have questions after, even though there's no public comment, anyone really in the audience, if you have questions, let me know. We can add those to the FAQ, and then we'll also have the public hearing at the end of the month where you can ask questions. If you want responses in advance, I would say, reach out. Anyone else that reaches out, we'll try to get you answers preemptively, but we'll also have the FAQ up on the website and share it in social media as well. All right, so could I have a motion to approve the December 2026 Finance and Agenda meeting minutes, please?
Motion to approve the December 2026 Finance and Agenda meeting minutes. Actually, it's December 2025 minutes.
Yeah, what did I say? 26.
I'm just
Right.
reading it off of the
Yeah, I
agenda
think
here,
so.
so it should
Okay,
be
so we'll put
2025.
2025 Finance and Agenda meeting minutes, our last meeting. Did anybody have any edits or discussion on these? Okay, so do I have a second?
Second.
Second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. We'll invite Phil Sapone up from Raptelis. Josh, do you want to use this mic, which is an easier mic to use, or that one?
However he wants to work it.
Yeah, and how?
Okay. I'm going to put this one here. That's the mute button right there.
Can you see? Do you need me to move? And shift, you sure? I know you saw it already.
Is this thing on? Are you okay to get this captured on camera? Good. Okay.
Now it's on. Okay.
The mute button's right there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for having me tonight. My name is Phil Sapone from Raptelis, and I'm located just over in Latham, New York, so I'm pretty local. And, my background is I work in the rates and finance practice for Raptelis in the Northeast, so I do a lot of rate and finance work for municipal utilities throughout the state, throughout Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and some utilities outside the area as well. So I was here in September, and we talked about some general options that you guys could do as far as changing the rates. And what we're doing here tonight is coming back around and showing how one particular option I think is going to be pretty helpful. And we're going to talk about for each system, so the water system, the two sewer districts, what the calculated rates are, most importantly, what the bill impacts are, because I think everybody's going to be really interested in that. And I'm also going to talk about the general design of the rate structures. They're pretty simple, but I'll talk about why I did, what I did and why we're recommending what we're recommending. So I am going to turn this into presentation mode. There we go. Okay, so let's start with the water rates. So what we did was we collected all the customer data for the water system. And what I mean by that is we got a list of all the customers, who has what meter size, and what was their metered consumption. So when I had all that data, I could calculate the rates that I wanted to calculate. And a question you might have is, well, you calculated new rates. How much revenue do those rates generate? Well, we designed them to recover the same amount of revenue, or to generate the same amount of revenue that the existing rates recovered. So we took customer data, we applied those to the existing water rates, determined that it came to about 4.3 million. So I have it here, 4.293 million in revenue. We said, okay, that's what the existing rates would generate. So we'll design this rate structure alternative to generate the same amount of revenue. Okay, so not getting any additional revenue from this rate structure. Just want to make that clear. So when I parse through all the data, all the billing data for 1 year, this is the data summarized. So you can see in the first table, there's meter size, and then there's a customer count. So what that says is there's 7,764 customers that have a 5/8 inch meter. In total, there's 8,118 customers. And as far as metered water consumption, I call it billed gallons. It's about 792 million billed gallons. And you'll see why this is the information that I was looking to gather here. So the reason I wanted meter size data is because I wanted to design a charge called a readiness to serve charge that would be scaled by meter size. All right, this is new. It's a fixed charge. It's not a minimum charge. Okay, there's no allowance associated with it. So for a 5/8 inch meter, the biannual readiness to serve charge would be $29.23. That's fixed. Everybody would pay that regardless of how much water you use. So readiness to serve charges typically recover fixed operating and capital related costs. As in, the system has to pay these costs whether or not anybody uses any water. So I wouldn't design the readiness to serve charge to recover all of the fixed costs of the system. It'd be too high. Plus, the water district has a separate debt service unit charge. Is that what you typically call it? Okay. So debt service costs are recovered separately. So this charge is only recovering a portion of the fixed capacity related O&M costs. And I want to keep it low because I don't want there to be too many fixed charges, which makes that bill get pretty high for somebody that's not really using any water, whether they're a small business or whether they're a residential customer. So we size these readiness to serve charges to be pretty low as far as readiness to serve charges go. Okay, so again, for half the year, it's $29.23 for a 5/8 inch meter. There's no allowance associated with this, okay? So the customer would pay that charge, and then once their meter starts running and water starts coming through it, they immediately start paying the volume rate, which came out to $4.47 per 1,000 gallons. Does that make sense? Set up to that? Okay.
Just to follow up on that, this is a big difference between what our residents are used to versus what we would be moving toward. I can't remember how many years, but more than 10, 15 years back, they started associating what we were calling a base rate charge with a certain number of gallons. That does not happen now. This example here, the 2923, would be like your National Grid keeping the account open charge kind of a thing. So it exists regardless of any usage whatsoever. So that's a big shift. I just want to make sure that's pointed out.
So let's look at some, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to come back to these charts, but let's look at let's look at some bills over the years. So I have 3 columns here. And I have 3 different types of customers. I have residential, I have small commercial, and I have a large commercial. So when I say residential, I picked kind of a lower volume user. So annual water use, 15,000 gallons. It's pretty low. Small business might use 100,000 gallons. Larger commercial customer might use 1 million gallons. Okay, just picking these to show you how this would look. So I calculated 6-month bills under the previous set of rates, and those rates change to your existing rate structure that you have now currently. And then we have the alternative that I just showed you on the previous slide. So we have 3 sets of bills: previous water rates, existing water rates, the alternative that we're discussing tonight. So look what happened when the water rates went from what they were previously to the existing water rates. That customer bill went from $30 to $78, and that's an increase of 160%. That's really high. The small commercial bill went up 80%. The large commercial customer, their bill actually went down. So when there was a change of the rate structure recently and the low volume users, whether it was residential or small commercial, said, geez, our bills have gone up really high, that's illustrated right here. That's definitely true. So with the water rate structure alternative that I just showed you on the last slide, let's see what happens. So I'm moving over to this column. So this is what this customer's, their 6-month bill, what it would do as compared to with the rate structure alternative that I just talked about, as compared to the existing water rates. Their bill would go down 19.5%. The small business, that bill goes down 40%. The large customer, whose bill went down 8% when everybody's bills went way up, their bill's going up 61%. So this is redistributing costs amongst large and smaller users much more fairly. Does that make sense to everybody?
So you're basing this on for the residential customer, that's low volume residential. So that is not like the average residential customer in a town, right?
That's correct.
That's below the minimum.
So if you want to see it across different,
Can
different-
I ask a question about the other slide?
oh yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. So we're looking at the percent change for residential. It was 160%. So now if we take it down, like say 20%, so it would be an increase of 140% instead of 160%. So it's okay.
More or
Just wanna
less.
clarify that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't make their bill go back to what it used to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a change.
But this is the minimum user. This is a very
low volume user.
low volume user. So it's not reflective really of the average user.
This would really be a single person living on their own, or maybe a couple who uses very, very little water, conserves. I know I heard from a lot of senior couples that use a lot less than the minimum. So that's what this would be representing. But he's going to go over an illustration of some of the
Broader
other.
Small amount.
Yeah. So the question is, well, what's going to happen for a typical customer, right?
Right.
That's a fair question. So this is a chart that shows the bill impact for a residential customer over a 6-month billing period, because you have 2 6-month billing periods. That's how the water bills are sent out. So on the bottom, makes my mouse doesn't show up. On the bottom, we have usage, and it's in units of 1,000 gallons. So if I'm right, the numbers should be in thousands. So where it says 21, that's 21,000 gallons in a 6-month period. That customer's bill is going to go down 4.3%. But if we move back here to the 3, 6, 9,000, you can see those customers their bills are going way down. So if you hardly use any water, your bill skyrocketed. Now it's going way down because you're not using that much water. If you use 50,000 gallons of water in a 6-month period, your bill's kind of unchanged. It's just down about a 1 or 2%. But you didn't really get impacted by the previous rate change either. So that's kind of what happened is the really small user got that big minimum charge. Their bill went way up. We're turning that back around, but not using a minimum charge.
But it's still up 140% instead of 160%.
It's still up quite a bit from what it
Yes.
used to be. That's correct. Yep. All right. So if you were to say, and these slides might take a more careful look from everybody later on. There's a lot of numbers here, but this is a total summary of what everybody's bill is going to do. So I went through this set of data, calculated bills according to the existing rates, calculated bills according to the new rates, and summed it up on a percentage basis. So here's what this means. Of all the bills that were issued in a 1-year period in the set of data I got, 4,861 of them are going to go down 0 to 5%. That makes sense because most of your residential customers are kind of out here, right?
Where is it here? That's not showing up on the
Oh, I'm
screen.
sorry. They're using probably 20,000 gallons in a 6-month period.
20.
So maybe
Our-
40.
Our average was 27.7. So
Okay,
about
27.
27,000 gallons is our average household.
So if you go from where it says 18, go to about 42, those are like 0 to 5%. That's why it's showing this big bar here. That's where a lot of your residential customers are going to be. No real change. But the big savings, these ones down here, those are your low volume residential customers who really had their bill shoot up when that minimum charge changed. Even though they weren't using very much water, they were getting really big bills. So that's turning around now. And that's why you're seeing bill impacts that are negative 25%, negative 35%. Those are your low volume customers. There are some up here where somebody's bill is three bills are going up 35 to 40%. Who is that? High volume residential water customers. Did the same thing for commercial. There are some commercial customers whose bill is going to go way up. 22 bills are going up over 50%. Who are those? Those are your big water users. That is the commercial large, somebody using 1 million gallons. Their bill is going to go up 61%. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
These are the ones that did not experience an increase when we changed the rates, but
Right.
actually experienced a decrease.
Right.
So the net increase is actually much less than residential, even though it looks pretty stark looking at this.
Yeah.
So 91 businesses are going to see, I'm looking at the last bar on the graph. So 91 businesses are going to see like a pretty substantial, is that 100%? Like what is that?
Yeah.
So that's a percent decrease. If I create too many columns, the chart gets really tall.
Okay.
So I cut it off at 50%.
Okay.
But what it's saying is 51, or does it say 91? The number is kind of small, but it says 91 bills are going to go down over 50%.
91, and if you tack on the 12, 14, and 15, so in the neighborhood of 140, 150 small businesses should see a reduction of at least 30%.
And just to explain further, if you recall, we had a differentiation between residential and commercial base rates that will not exist now. They'll all be treated as the same group of meters. They will only be, the only change is by meter size. So we have a significant number of small businesses that have the same size meter, which means the same strain on our system as a residence. So now we're throwing anyone who has that size meter, which maybe this, a small business, the same size meter as a home, they're now consider it's all just one big bucket. So those huge decreases are because a lot of these small businesses got thrown into these base rates that were just not appropriate. So those are this is the the most famous example I can think of. We talked about it so many times. There was a church who had used 912 gallons and was charged like $907 or something along those lines. So that is what we're addressing with a lot of those ones that have gone down so significantly.
So, Phil?
Yep.
So in your previous slide, when you had those business customers, commercial, Does that include the nonprofits and the churches that the supervisor is talking about?
I believe so. I think those are in there, yeah.
That was one of the issues, is that we really didn't differentiate small commercial from small nonprofit or church, or it was just three basic buckets that didn't make a whole lot of sense once we started picking everything apart.
Yeah. And to your point, these become kind of like customized base rates. That's what they are.
Phil, could you explain how we came up with that escalation? It was drawn from the meter company's information.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good question. So the way these are scaled, and you can see it. So for a 5/8 meter, it's $29.23. But if you have a 10-inch meter, it's $9,500. So big difference. That is scaled based on relative potential capacity use. How can I gauge somebody's potential capacity use? Well, I went and got the meter specification sheets for all the different meter sizes and the meters that are typically installed by the town. I think they were Neptune meters. So I went and pulled those off the manufacturer's website, and I look at their max flow rates. So if a 4-inch meter, if that readiness to serve charge is 20 times a 5/8 inch, it means that the flow rate is 20 times higher than a 5/8 inch meter. We've designed a lot of readiness to serve charges using that approach.
So this is stuff you've used industry-wide, is what you're saying. Your familiarity with these meter sizes, that's how helped you factor in what those costs would be.
Yeah, these are-
charges.
So these charges are scaled according to a common industry practice.
Could you please permit me to play devil's advocate for 1 minute? Is it possible that a church, in this day and age with secularization of society, churches change hands a lot. So is it possible that a church would have I'm going to pick a number, a 4-inch incoming pipe,
Yeah.
but they're nowhere close to using the capacity that they're capable of using.
Yeah.
And it's just like very little use. And is such a scenario possible?
I think we checked this, and then we had one church at 1 inch, and I don't think we saw any nonprofits or churches higher than that. But I think we talked about right sizing them if that were the case.
All right. Any other questions on water rates or water bill impacts? Again, I know some of these slides are detailed. They're probably worth a second look, maybe when you have more time.
What about the distinction between Water District 1 and Water District 6? Like, or is it this going to
Is
be
that
common?
The
to-
sewer.
Sewer?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No problem. I'm going to move on to the sewer ones, and I
Okay.
can
Okay.
go over that. Okay. All right. So sewer district 1. So again, same thing. What I did was I took the set of customer data that I had for sewer district 1. I applied the existing rates. I said, how much revenue does that get me? Comes out to about 1.2 million. I said, okay, let me then design an alternative rate structure similar to what I discussed for the water district to recover that same amount of revenue. So again, a revenue neutral scenario here with alternative water rates. Same thing. I wanted to summarize the customer data. So it's a count of customers by meter size, and the gallons here is it's metered water consumption. So sewer use is billed based on metered water consumption. So that's my data. And again, we scale the readiness to serve charge by the relative potential capacity use. So it's the meter sizes. It's the same scaling approach. And again, these are fixed charges, not minimum charges. There's no allowance. Everybody gets billed them based on their meter size, based on their water meter size, and then they pay a volume rate. Okay. So let's look at how this looks for our 3 types of customers. So the small residential, the smaller commercial, and the large commercial. This is the district that was previously billed on the tax
So if you recall, Sewer District 1 customers were not being paid based on their, or not paying us based on their usage. It was a flat rate that was put on their property tax bill, which caused a lot of confusion. But it's part of the reason that he can't make this percentage change calculation, because particularly the commercial units were not, residential was typically 1 unit of debt service on every bill, but the commercial accounts often had more than 1 unit. And so it's really like a personalized
Yeah.
percentage change. So we couldn't really show it here.
Yeah, exactly. So I can just show the change for existing, which is the existing sewer rates for Sewer District 1, to the potential new sewer district rates for this alternative. So you can see, you're a small residential customer, your bill would go down almost 30%. You're a small commercial customer, your bill would go down 43%. The large commercial customer, the bill goes up quite a bit here, 141%. The reason why it's higher for Sewer District 1 than it was for the Water District was it was hard to, this volume rate is quite a bit higher than the existing volume rate. So when you're paying more per 1,000 gallons and you use a lot, the bill impact kind of goes like that. So I tried to flatten it out as much as I could, but you can see here for residential customers. So this is our chart where you say, okay, you showed me what a small residential customer, what the bill impact would be, but what is it for across kind of a range of consumption? You can see, again, you're a small user, your bill is going to go way down. But when you get around 24,000, your bill actually starts going up. And on a percentage basis, if you're using 50,000 gallons per 6-month period, the bill impact would be around 8 or 9%.
Just to add for the conversation for this year, the residents that are in Sewer District 1 have no debt service on their property tax bills this year. So that should be a significant reduction for this year only, I will say. We used an excess of fund balance to wipe that out. But it should at least help with a bit of the transition for some of these ones that are going up, 4, 5, 6, 7% anyways.
So that's the profile of the bill impacts in Sewer District 1. Again, I do have the count, the bill count. So bill impacts totaling up the number of bills that'll go up 0 to 5%, 5 or 10%, and so on and so forth. Again, for residential and for commercial customers. So I don't know if we'll spend too much time on these, but again, this is the analysis that was done, and this is a very detailed summary of what the bill impacts will be with, or that are associated with this particular rate alternative.
So you share, Supervisor, you shared that the average consumption for the average Niskayuna family is 27.7.
Yes.
Right? Do we have such an average for our sewer, like the water output from the homes? Do we have an average number like that?
Well, so
Not metered. We don't meter
it's the same
output.
meter. So it would be
Okay.
based off of that same 27,000.
Okay.
That's another key piece though.
Are we giving any, when we start that, I mean, in our old billing system, we assumed that a certain percentage of the water was being, used for consumption and not going in the sewer.
Yeah.
So is that taken into effect here?
We talked through that. We could modify it. I think we said something like it would be 80% of
That's typical.
whatever. But I think what we're trying to do is to get everybody, the revenue requirement is what it is. So it's really just a matter of distributing it. We could do that, but then that would just drive up the cost per gallon, and that would equate to maybe roughly the same amount anyway, because of the way we're distributing it. But that is a change that we'll have to talk through. I think that if you have an irrigation system and you're using, for whatever reason, a significant amount of outdoor water, we want to really encourage people to get a second meter so that we can meter that water differently and they're not paying for sewer charges.
Right, but
based
that's
on
a
that.
cost that has to be borne by the person to get the second meter
Yeah.
and the plumbing.
So it would have to be worth it for
associated
them.
with it and stuff like that. And, we've had residents come in here and specifically talk about, well, I
Yeah.
don't use all the water that, all the water I'm using doesn't go down the sewer.
But I think
It's a very legitimate.
the difference, though, is that it's a completely different conceptual model because we're not saying you get this certain number of gallons of water and then this certain number of, you get 9,000 gallons of water and 14,000 of sewer included in this. It's a mindset shift to where we're saying, look, this is how much it costs to run sewer District 1. And I forgot what the percentage is that we put for readiness to serve, but
It was higher. It was like 35%.
right. So sewer District 1 is a bit unique because we don't have the same kind of capital projects or expenses that we do. We're basically paying the city of Schenectady for the use of their sewer and then doing small projects here and there. So we don't have as much debt service. That's why that percentage for readiness to serve is up high, is because we don't have the debt service offsetting it on the other side. So the reason why I say this is, as much as it's a mind shift for us, it will be for all of our residents. So we have to really start thinking through, like, try to forget the way it was done before and only focus on starting from scratch. How do we allocate what it costs to run the system, if that makes sense? It's like a total shift.
Oh, I appreciate that, but people don't forget, right? They're like, oh, I always had whatever. I don't remember the gallonage that it was that we gave a credit. Was it 15,000?
It was like 1.5, right? So like you would pay for the base rate included 94.90, and then the sewer was like 14,000 and change. It was whatever 1.5. Do you have something?
Yes, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, but so sewer one, the base rate is gonna go up to 553 from the 453 that it is now, and then are we still keeping the minimum usage, like you were just speaking of, the 94?
So that's where we have to try to like really stop and try to remove the concept of minimum use from our minds, because it is like a complete shift.
But the only line, is there still gonna be a minimum usage?
No, so that's what I'm saying. So this is a completely different. So this is more in line with the way that most other water systems are billing. We were doing it in a very weird way. I don't know what the history of it is, but for years we were doing it oddly and it was confusing. This is actually easier to understand, but it's confusing because we're moving from this weirdness into, I don't know how else to say it.
It's just how it was done in the past 30 years ago, probably.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Things don't
Yeah.
change very much. So you just kept changing it, tweaking it, and that kind of thing.
Right.
Now we're starting from scratch with you, which is fine, which is great, because it got a little bit complicated.
It did. It did.
So it's not gonna be a multiple of the minimum usage.
A multiple over the minimum usage.
I mean, it's like
I see what you're saying. No, that calculation won't exist. It will be very clearly, here's a minimum charge that every residence, and then every gallon you use goes at this, every 1,000 you get $5.53 for 1,000.
78 plus what we go over.
No, you don't have to do any of that kind of calculation.
So 2 questions. The average that you determined, do we know, it sort of feels like we're addressing very small users at one end and very large commercial consumption at the other. That average, who that applies to, do we have that, like that 27, is that most people? Or do we reach, is that most residential, or is that the average, but really most people are like,
See, I
in the
can't.
50,000 range? Do we know that?
It's a tough thing to get to because the things that drive water consumption aren't the same in one household versus another. So you could have a 3-bedroom household, but there could be, 7 people living there. You could have a 3-bedroom household and there'd be 1 person living there. So it's hard to know how many people are in a household and like what is the average. So that's why we sort of went 27,000 is like, here are all of our residences and here's where I think there was we pulled that down at one point to sort of see how many were in, plus or minus whatever the standard deviation was. And it was a pretty decent representation. Where we kind of stray from that, and this is what we were sort of talking about before, the folks that have irrigation systems are somewhat outliers to this for a couple reasons. One, because they were never really used to paying for it in this manner. And then it was sort of like, and then also they have more of an opportunity for leaks than most households because there's so much going on outside of the house that you might not notice unless you're, stepping in a puddle. So that's the only group of people that I do feel like, and we've been trying to address that. Can we get the outdoor meter? But the things that I really tried to target were, how do we encourage less water consumption? The rates that we had previously were not encouraging less water consumption. How do we address small businesses that are being really unfairly charged? And how do we address mostly our seniors who were trying to say, hey, this is a fixed income. They're using a very minimal amount of water. How can we make this as fair as possible for them? So those were really the groups that I targeted because, and I tried to say this as often as I could, it wasn't that we didn't need more revenue. It was just the way that it was distributed in the rates that we had prior to this was not as fairly as it could be done. So the money we're bringing in, as he's saying, is revenue neutral, same amount of money. We're just saying, hey, here's a more fair way of distributing what it costs.
So that kind of bakes in the fact that we were really undercharging for water for a long time,
Yeah.
right? Because if we still need to get to the same revenue, it's really a redistribution. Okay.
And I think that the rates were not necessarily based on the projections we had for capital projects and how much we thought things were
true
going to
costs.
increase. It
Mhm.
was sort of this, every single number we've used here can be drawn back to some very specific conclusion, whether it's the size of the meter and the impact it has on our system, or whether it is, this is how much it is going to, this is how much we need to pull in for water rents in order to cover our budget. So we can draw back to all the numbers. We really couldn't do that before, which was, I think, problematic.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Sewer District 6, the rates. All right, Sewer District 6. Again, same thing. It was the same approach for Sewer District 6 as it was for the Water District and Sewer District 1. I got a set of billing data for Sewer District 6 and applied the existing rates, came up with about $2.6 million in revenue. So I designed the rate alternative to generate the same amount of revenue. And based on the customer data I had, over 5,000 customers with a 5/8-inch meter, total customer count of 5,259. Billed gallons, almost 600 million in billed sewer use. So there is some debt in this system. So you do have the unit charge. So again, when we had outstanding debt and we had a unit charge, when that was the case for the first Sewer District 6 and for the Water District, we tried to kind of keep that readiness to serve charge lower. That's what we're doing here. So it's back in the 20s. It's kind of similar to the water as far as the magnitude of it. The scaling amongst the different meter sizes, the same approach. So you have a big meter, you have higher relative potential capacity use, you should pay more. And with this set of rates, those customers will. So the readiness to serve charge, the biannual readiness to serve charge is $25.61 for a 5/8-inch meter. Again, it's not a minimum charge. There's no allowance associated with that. The customer would pay that every 6-month period, and then immediately pay the volume rate of $3.55 per 1,000 gallons. So when I come to my summary here, we have the 3 groups of customers: residential, small commercial, large commercial. You can see with the rate change where it went from the previous set of rates to the existing set of sewer rates, that this customer's bill went up 243%. The small commercial customer bill more than doubled. The really large commercial customer, their bill went down. When we change to, if we were to change to the rate alternative that I just showed in the previous slide, the really small residential customer, their bill goes down 34%. The small commercial customer, or that nonprofit like the church we're talking about, their bill goes down 45%. The really large water user, their bill goes up 62%. So again, we have that redistribution of the sharing of costs that makes a little bit more sense with this rate alternative. This one comes out pretty flat as far as the profile across the different levels of consumption for a residential customer. So you can see if you're a low volume user, I just sort of shows you that in the previous slide, but if you're a low volume user, your bill is going to go down quite a bit. But as you creep up, there's really no significant bill impact with this rate scenario to the more moderate and larger residential customers. I do have the full bill impact summaries across residential and commercial customers. So most residential customers' bills will not go up very much at all. In fact, they're going to go down a little bit. So 3,709 customer bills are going to go down. And some bills will go down significantly. For commercial, it's distributed more widely, but 17 customer bills are going to go up significantly. These are the really large users.
And who did not get the increase?
And,
Just
yeah.
to clarify that we all, all of
went
us,
down.
yeah.
While everybody else's bills went up, their bills went down. So those are my summary. Those are the rate alternatives that we came up with for water in the 2 sewer districts. Pretty thorough bill impact analysis, about as thorough as I've done. I get that there's a lot of numbers, so I hope these charts will be available for people to review after the fact and make sure that they fully understand.
So you didn't run any scenarios for the sewer district billings by factoring in non-usage, as I said before, right? The water that doesn't really go into sewer consumption.
That's correct. We did not run any scenarios with an adjustment for that.
In the very first, perhaps this is a question for the supervisor more than Philip, like in the very first series of slides, you said like, this many revenue was generated, like so many million for the water district, so many million. So that number, would generate an estimate 4.293 million. Does that number include provisions for replacing old stuff, upgrades to?
It's a great question. So the slides are going to go out. You'll see this number for the water district, for sewer 1, and for sewer 6. What that represents is the number from the 2025, not 26. Keep that in mind. The 2025 sewer and water rent line. So you can tie this number back to that line of revenue. So that's what we would call our revenue requirement. That's the number we're trying to get to, which is my argument for revisiting this every year, because that number is going to ebb and flow based on the things that we have planned for the following year. So what I was chatting with Phil about beforehand is I said, does it make sense? The sewer districts are pretty much, I think they might have actually gone down for rents for 26, but the water district went up because if you recall, if you were looking through the water district budget, you'll notice that I had a provision for $700,000 into our reserve account. I'm trying to build those reserves to a point where if we needed to do a project quickly, we wouldn't have to borrow money. Because we're not going with a higher estimate, we're just doing a revenue neutral, not increasing the water rents. I would propose that we would modify the budget to remove the $700,000 that we were designating for reserves so that we don't have to increase them. We'll take things one step at a time. We'll just say revenue is the same as the year prior. Let's just redistribute the rates. Then moving forward, we can start adding provisions for reserves. It's not, we do need to start doing that, but I'm trying to take things in small chunks. So I think that's probably the best approach. But I say that because if you go back to the 2026 budget and you try to tie this number, you won't see it. You'll see it in 2025, which is last year, because we did go revenue neutral. Does that make sense?
So,
Kind of clear as mud?
if there is a need to repair water mains or like tanks or stuff, then we would have in this model, like we would have a little bit.
Well, the model itself, which is what's so great about it, is a model that can sort of live in perpetuity.
We just
So-
need to change that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this number, the 4.293, does that give us any wiggle room for water main breaks and something that may happen in 2026?
That's a great question. No, not in the budget, but we do have a little under $1 million in a repair reserve account. So if we had a catastrophic, we would maybe still need to borrow money, but we would have money for our repairs and things if we fell short in the budget. I would not recommend doing this for more than a year because I do think we need to move in that direction. We also have a few pots of money that I'm very much hoping are coming from grant funds that could use to supplement the budget as well. We don't know that for sure yet. So I'm hedging my bets. We have a stopgap if we need it, but this is at least a way for us to say, let's stay where we are, redistribute, and then let's talk about moving forward after that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Well, it was
Thanks.
done in the past, Ashok, I think, to answer your question, when we put in like new water main on Mohawk Road, or we did other projects like that, infrastructure projects, we would bond that money. Okay, we would bond that money long term. That's what happened in the past. Bonding, the money was very cheap, so we took advantage of that when we could. But that's not the case any longer. So to Erin's point, she's trying to build some money in there, and we always have the ability to bond if we have to, but we try not to.
Okay.
But when you have to do some projects, you have to do them, right?
Thank you, Bill.
So to clarify, we're looking in the future, like you said, to take it slow, to build some of that infrastructure money into that number.
Correct. So if you go into the budget and you take a look at just the revenue section, this is one line out of the revenue, biggest line, but one line out of the revenue. If we think through how we can get money in for the projects, we're going to get it through usage that you pay per usage, we adjust this number, or we bring in money through grants. We're tackling both of those things. So the amount that we would have to increase year over year could be largely dependent upon how much grant money we're able to bring in for the projects we're able to accomplish in each year. That's the hope. If we bring in no money, we still would have to figure out how much are we going to need to bond for this project and what will those bond payments look like and how will that impact what we need to collect. So there's a few moving parts, but I think it's worth it to take a look at this every year because we really don't know what this is going to be. And I feel like transparency wise, we're saying, hey, this is what we're planning for the year. Here's how we're going to pay for it.
And we are looking into multiple grants from multiple agencies, and I'm happy to talk to anyone offline about what we are up to.
Okay. Feeling good? Everyone's so excited. I started a list of questions that I think people will have based on this. I think the communication piece largely will be really a shift of mindset, which is it will be a complicated idea. So we're trying to come up with the best way. I'm actually so glad that we asked all these questions because this presentation will be posted online and hopefully we can get enough people to read through it. And our friend Ted is back there, so maybe we get some in the Gazette to help explain it. And then also we'll have an FAQ attached to it with the questions that we think people will be asking. So if you have questions, you're like, hey, I know somebody's going to ask about X, Y, and Z, send them over so that we can post them. We had originally put the acceptance of the rates on the January agenda. We're going to move it to February. We're going to just sit with the public comment in this month.
And Supervisor, the public comment will be on the board meeting the last Tuesday, 27th.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah. 27th, we'll have we have public comment anyway, but we have the public hearing. So we'll be able to, whoever has specific questions that they couldn't get answers to or want to give feedback, that's definitely the time to do it. We can sort of sit with it. We can play with the models. I do think we have to put it back out for a public hearing if we change them again, but I'll double check that. I'm pretty sure we would have to, which is okay. I feel like taking this bit by bit, we can really, before we just say, hey, it's already happening. I also want to make sure everybody understands that we're billed on a lag. So you won't see these, you're going to get a spring bill. It'll be the same as it was before. This would be the next billing cycle that it would be effective for.
So once we approve them from a communication standpoint, we're going to gather input now. Once the structural change is made, it won't impact the spring bill, but we will have an opportunity to begin explaining the structure. then in advance so people can plan.
Yes, we're going to put a nice explanation of as crisp as we can of this explanation we will put in the spring bills to sort of say, hey, this is your bill now. Here's what you can expect. We've been playing around with the billing software. We may be able to put in, hey, if your usage stays the same, here's what your bill is going to be in the fall, which might be a helpful comparison as well. And that way, if they do have questions, maybe they ask them then. instead.
I actually had a thought on that, Supervisor, and a question for Phil. Like, since I like spreadsheets and Google Sheets so much, like, is it possible to have a Google Sheet of sorts that's linked on the website, where if a customer has their previous water bill and they punch in the numbers into the spreadsheet, it'll tell them, hey, under the new paradigm, this is what your new water and sewer bill will be. I'm assuming like such a thing would be easy to do.
Yeah, we would just put the new, the new.
We've
rates
done
in.
that other places. We create like a bill calculator
Yeah,
on the
That's
website.
a great idea, Shelley.
Yes.
I love that.
Or what we can do is we can create an Excel file that they can download.
I love
Enter
Excel
in-
files, but
enter in their
and I
usage
love
and their
looking
meter
at
size.
numbers all
But I
day.
think bill calculator might be the better way to go.
Bill calculator.
Just type in
They're
your.
going to need their bill in front of them so they know their gallonage to figure out what, and they're going to need to know their meter size. So there's factors that the customer might not know the answers to some of those questions, right?
And can Raftalis help us develop such a web-based, possibly Java-based calculator?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay. Phil, thank you.
Is that-
I really appreciate you. We're going to put as many of these
Thank you,
questions out.
Phil. I just wanted
Oh yeah,
to
he's
thank
going to
you.
follow up with you too, Ashok,
Okay.
so that you have
Yeah.
even more information.
Thank
for
you.
the
This is
committee
like,
meeting.
there's more work to do, but thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Raftalis. I think we have a good starting point.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel very fortunate that you live in Latham and were able to come out too, because I'm glad I didn't have to explain that by myself. Okay, we've got the discussion. Everybody's feeling comfortable about public hearing, and then on for February, we can talk February during the finance meeting if we have feedback, after the public hearing. Okay. The next thing we have to discuss, although I'm more bringing it up to make sure that it's still on everyone's radar, we're trying to make sure that we're going about, we have a business that is looking to lease the land that the transfer station used to be on, to use it for a food truck kind of concessions facility, a sort of non-permanent use for the area. We're going to test it out and sort of see how it goes. We want to make sure we're doing this correctly, and there's nuance to it. So it's there only because you might see something at the end of the month that will be like step one in this process. We just want to make sure we're doing it exactly the way that it's supposed to be done. So that's the only reason that it's on there. It's just if you see a resolution, that's like step one of moving toward making sure it's out to the public and anybody can bid on it and that kind of thing.
So would that be for like baseball at Blatnick, or would that be for functions?
So the way that they're envisioning it, and this business owner has been in contact with Niskuna Baseball because obviously their concessions would suffer if there were food trucks everywhere. They're working outside of the town to kind of go through what makes sense. I think the business was going to donate whatever they would have made out of concessions based on that. So they're working on that separately. For us, it would be more, I mean, we would have to see what the submission looks like, but I envision it being something that's open a lot more than just the baseball hours. It would be kind of, maybe lunchtime for GE or whoever. But we'll be able to look at all of that and review it.
Is there any concern, Supervisor, from the residents or neighbors regarding noise or?
That's what we're going to
Okay.
find out. So that's why this is such a long, so whenever a town is doing anything with their real property, there's usually a lot of public hearings involved in it. That's why I'm trying to get it started sooner rather than later to get it going. But the residents will have an opportunity to say their piece for sure. Okay, so I'll try to give you a heads up on that step one too, because I really I'll be honest, I just want to make sure we're doing it correctly. And this is a weird setup with a transfer station. So just trying to be mindful
And
of
that has to do with the zoning.
not really. I think that they lump it all together, but it has to do with like the purpose of the lease.
Yep.
And there's like weird rules about it. But more to come on that. It looks like we also have, excuse me, Councilmember Brennan will be sponsoring a ceremonial resolution honoring Joe Drescher for his years of service as a Niskuna Town Board member. He was our what's that?
Yeah,
What-
that was the edit. That was the edit I was gonna make.
It's supposed to be town.
For
Yes,
deputy
I was going to say he's the
supervisor and
deputy
and
supervisor.
acting supervisor.
And acting. Yeah. So if you recall, when we had a shift in leadership, he took over for, I think it was like 6-7 weeks. Even though he had a full-time job, he came in to help. He's been our deputy supervisor. He actually was put back onto the planning board, but we really want to recognize him for his help during a transitional period of time. So he'll be on for ceremonial at the end of the month, along with Jason Moskowitz and John Delarada for their service as town board members as well. We'll also have a resolution, or wait, do I need this? Do we know if this is supposed to be a motion or a resolution? I see motion on here, but it. So can I motion for a public hearing here? Does it have to be? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to call for a public hearing regarding a franchise agreement with Charter Communications, Inc. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, to update you, we have not had an active agreement with Charter. It expired, I think, yet last year in the middle of the year. They had some language that we didn't necessarily agree with, and so we did some back and forth. We eventually came up with language that the company that helps us auditing those bills had recommended. So we'll have a public hearing on those changes. They're relatively minor. I don't even think there's any changes from the original agreement. It was just from what they were proposing. Since it's a new agreement, we'll have it out for public hearing as well. Are we calling that for the 27th as well? I think we can, right? Because we still have to put out the utility rates. Okay, so I'll make a motion to clarify. The motion will be for a public hearing on January 27th regarding a franchise agreement with Charter Communications, Inc. Could I have that second again, Bill?
Second.
Any other questions on this? Okay, all in favor?
Supervisor, Sarah just pointed this out, like the ceremonial resolution for John, I think that should be her, and I think Jason should be mine because of the committees.
Yeah, the initials are just.
Oh,
need to be
okay,
flipped.
flip-flop.
Yep.
Oh, good catch. Okay. We're just aligning them with the committees.
Correct.
Okay. Could I get a vote on the motion for a public hearing? All in favor?
Yes.
All those in favor, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay. All right. So item G is all set. We're going to take, as I mentioned, item H, and this is going to move to the February meeting. And then, let's see. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. This is in there. The item I is the resolution. If you recall, in December, we had a public hearing to amend the town codes that we could change the income limits for our seniors and for our disabled residents. That we're going to send some information to. Since it was in December, we have 2 new council members. That information will be sent in advance so that you could take a look. Eric, do you want to give just like a brief overview so they understand the concept?
Sure. There's 2 exemptions we're talking about. There's a senior citizen exemption and a disability exemption. And for both of them, the house has to be owner occupied. And there's an income limit of $37,400. And there's an annual renewal for all the people that are enrolled. The last couple of years, there's been quite a bit of COLA increases for Social Security. And what's happening is people are getting the COLA increases and we're taking it in taxes. And we're not trying to balance the budget on the backs of low-income people. That's really what it comes down to. So what we did is we looked at the $37,400 limit, and I think the COLA increases, we added them up like 18%, something like that. We just multiplied it by 18%, And that's our new limit. Now, this only applies to the town. It doesn't apply to the county or the schools. They have to adopt their own limits. Currently, everything's the same. It's not going to be like that going forward. And just for reference, a house with a assessed value of $275,000 would pay $851.28 in taxes to the town. And if you're going to get a 50% exemption, it would come out to $425 benefit for them. Oh, one more thing, the exemptions are on a sliding scale. All right, so your amount could be between 5 and 50%, depending on where you fall on the scale. And it's roughly $800 to $1,000 increments in income. We don't calculate income the same way as the IRS. We look at the totality of your Social Security. We do not look at your IRA distributions, and we do look at your tax-free interest and dividends. And there's a couple other quirks. We don't want to go through tax law right now. So,
But essentially, you're just keeping up with COLA in
We're
other,
trying to,
so
yeah.
that there's not kind of a mismatch behind. That's what it's
We're a
like.
little behind.
yeah, the state did raise the income limits by local option from $37,400 to $58,000, I believe it is. That's by local option. That's kind of one size fits all for the entire state. So if it works in Scarsdale, it might not work in Niskayuna or Schenectady. Everybody gets to choose their own.
Okay.
At this point, I don't see any movement for the county or the South Colony School District. The school district of Niskayuna, they're going to see what happens. Okay. And we'd have to do it this month because there's a March 1st deadline. All applications due March 1st, March 2nd, you have to wait till next year. So if we push it off to February, we're not really giving anybody a chance to apply.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thanks, Eric.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. We also have a resolution to appoint a principal account clerk retroactive to 1/1. This was something we budgeted for an existing employee, bringing her to the principal level. We just didn't make it a part of our salaries. And so we want to make sure she's in the white collar union. So we want to make sure we're doing that retroactive to 1/1. We did do emergency approval for L and M. If you guys recall from the emails that were sent around, we left them on the agenda because we may as well go through resolution if we don't have to cut the check until then. But the work will begin this weekend on the vents at least. So we're going to start with the vents. So they're on there just so that everyone's got them on their radar, but that work will start prior to the meeting. N is a resolution to amend the town's AED policy. There's names in there that are just old names. So we're just updating the old names. And
Very basic question. What is AED?
it's an automatic defibrillator.
Defibrillator.
It's like a safety thing.
The town has an AED policy?
We do.
Okay.
It's actually required by state law now. So we have them in all of our buildings and we have to have a policy governing it. I don't know if it's dictated by the state that you have to have the names in there, but we went back and looked, and if they don't need to have the names, we're just going to change them to the titles so we don't have to do this every year, but there's some old names in there, so we just want to update that. The same thing goes for item O, the tentative resolution to amend the town's purchasing policy. I don't think that we're going to make we probably will have a wider discussion about updating it. It hasn't been updated. The amounts haven't been updated in years. But for now, I want to at least put it on because there are really old names on there because we're supposed to update it. We need to put that on our notes for January to make sure. I thought we could put just the positions. We need to have the actual names every January. I didn't realize that either. So we'll put that on our list to make sure our reorg meeting always includes the purchasing policy to update the names. And if we do see something in there that needs to be changed as like something material, we'll send that around in advance so that everybody's got.
What are you
eyes on it.
considering changing the amounts? I mean, we did that probably it's probably back in COVID, I think.
I
when we
know.
Increased amounts, so
We
I don't know,
did.
maybe we should look at those numbers.
We definitely should. We just haven't had an opportunity to have a full discussion. And I would have brought it up here as it made sense. But I mean, if you want, I can circulate what the state has for their guidelines and then kind of where we are for each. And then you could see the comparison if that's helpful. Maybe we could at least circulate that and sort of see that we're a little bit behind. Yeah. And we've just seen, we've seen a bit of an
Not
uptick.
too long ago. But
Yeah.
we have seen inflation. that's
Yeah.
true.
So we can circulate that, but you'll at least see the resolution for the names. And if there any, I'll point it out if there's material changes so that it doesn't slip by. We also have the tentative resolution authorizing the purchase of security camera equipment for the town hall and police department. This again was budgeted for, I think we're just waiting on quotes. Okay, so it's not tentative. It's good to go. Okay. We talked a bit about this during budgeting, but if you have questions, Josh can definitely answer them for you. That's all I have. I think we move on to highway, parks, and community programs, starting with highway.
Good evening. A is a tentative, well, be a resolution to approve the purchase of mowing equipment for the Parks Department. This are two items that were budgeted for 2026. We're trying to get these quotes approved before price increases, which we were told was going to happen. So these are actually a little bit cheaper than what we put into the 26 budget to get these, not by a lot with these, but a little bit cheaper. So B, a resolution to approve a grant application for Parks and Rec and Historical Preservation.
That one is in your committee because it deals with parks, but this, it's kind of a pie in the sky. We're going to apply for it because I'm just going to keep applying for things, but it would actually involve us enacting a change to the town pool. It would be built in Blatnick Park. It was part of the 2016 Parks Plan that, we hadn't moved forward with, but we're going to give it a shot and just do the pool part of it because we wouldn't be able to afford the other piece.
A little bit helps. C, a resolution to hire additional employees in the town office of community programs. Lori asked me to speak of this. So this is for winter programs and senior exercise. And then I have another one to add is the purchase of a mowing tractor for the highway department. That was the quote I showed you this morning, Aaron.
Okay.
So that as well, if we purchase it now, was about $11,000 cheaper than we had budgeted for. So we can see a savings now if we move forward and at least do an intent to buy it rather than wait, because every vendor I've talked to, we see increases coming. So this was, when we put the number in for this, they had projected that the tractor was going to be what I put in for. Right now, we're able to get it at that savings. So that's helpful.
And just to clarify for you guys, the initial item A is under parks, which is under the general fund. And then the resolution that he's mentioning would be under the highway fund. They're both under equipment lines, just so that you know where to point to.
Budgeted money, all budgeted money.
Okay. Questions for Ray?
And then the last one is you.
Oh, this one's actually, more for me, but under Parks. This is the Parks Advisory Committee that I've been talking about for the last few months. We have language in that Elena is reviewing. It's pretty basic. I think probably this will end up growing as we need it to. I'm thinking of, I put in 7 members. 2 of them one would be either the park supervisor of the town of Niskuna or a designee. And then the coordinator of community programs or a designee, so the 2 employees. The chair would be chosen by the board, and then the other 4 members would be chosen by the board. The language in there is relatively broad. We kind of want it to represent all different types of groups, from our youth sports teams to our hikers and bikers and green space lovers. We want to make sure We're representing the community. So if you have people in mind, I have a handful of folks that have been interested. We also have the help of the deputy supervisor, and I believe former council member Moskowitz had expressed an interest to help us with this as well. I thought we'd just start off kind of basic. We have a laundry list of things that we'd like them to go over. But this would just be a resolution creating the committee and then putting it under our purview. It would be advisory in nature only. So they would be just giving recommendations.
Would it be like the standard one meeting a month, Supervisor?
You know, I put in there a vague, the chair would be selecting the time and the place because I don't know what the members are going to want to do. So I thought if we put it in there relatively vague, then we could have them create some documents that would outline when their meetings would be. But since it's new and a little different, I thought we could keep it broad for now and then go from there.
If there is a write-up, I can publicize it in the at Union College and see if there's anybody interested.
Yeah, I would say wait until the end of the month. That way we know it's established and ready to go. But I do have a running list, so I'll share that list with you and you could just add names as they're,
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Thanks.
Questions on that? Okay. Police and public safety, Deputy Chief Twitty.
Good afternoon, evening, I guess now. Let's see, we have a resolution for authorizing the purchase of police vehicles. Metro Ford has won a bid, and it's for $88,298. B is the authorization payment for the 2026 membership for the Zone 5 Regional Zone Training Academy, and that's $5,100. We have a resolution to surplus 4 tasers. We've updated our tasers, so we need to surplus our old ones. We just need a resolution to destroy them, get rid of them. D is going to be a resolution to amend the fee for background screening services for about $300.
Yeah, this was in response to us spending more in cases where it's mostly New York State, I think, where they have to go into the court records. It costs money. So if a person has records or even the background check, it's the same name, it'll trigger more fees. So we're talking about taking $300 up front and then refunding whatever isn't spent. So it'd be whatever it is for the background check, but that way the town's not absorbing any vendor fees.
And just to be clear, this is just a service we provide, right?
It's
Or
so
is it
if
more
we
through
have
hiring?
Well, the hiring thing is that's a whole other
what I
beast,
thought.
but this is more folks that are applying, like businesses that are
People
applying
want to go
for,
door to door.
yeah, permits. Yeah, so it's businesses. We don't want to
So we
absorb
screen
those
them so
fees.
they have a permit so they can go to someone's home and be safe.
So if they ring your doorbell, ask them for it.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
No, I do.
Or just turn the lights off. And
A
pretend
lot of
you're not-
people don't follow the rules, right? And the rules are you have to come here and get screened, and then you can go knock on doors in the town.
And the last is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a contract with Susquehanna SPCA. That is our backup to our Animal Protective Foundation. It's just a backup facility.
I think it's the same as last year, right? We had all the same ones last year?
Yes.
Yeah, so just renewing those.
Yes.
This one was supposed to be on for last month, but we didn't have it and Jordan didn't have a chance to look at it, so we pushed it to this month.
Yep.
So I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll go to water, sewer, engineering and environmental.
Okay, item A is a resolution accepting bids and awarding contracts for the purchase of materials, chemicals, and lab services to be used by the town in its public works operations during 2026. We do this every year. Every year we go out to the regular vendors that we use, whether it's chemicals that we use or parts, water main, valve, hydrants. We go out to the regular vendors and get a bid price from them that they can guarantee for the whole year. And then we use that for the year. And so we're out to bid right now. Our bids will come back January 22nd. And so we'll have a resolution to accept those bids and to be able to purchase our materials for the year. Item B, a resolution appointing an engineer tech 2. We've had a wonderful staff, engineering tech 1 position. He's been here a year and a half and has excelled in everything that we've asked him to do. This promotion will fairly compensate him for the value that he is to the town,
And we budgeted for it.
and we budgeted for it. Item C, a resolution permanently appointing a maintenance worker in the water and sewer department. This is a staff that has been on board for a year. And so this will, he's been excellent on our water and sewer crew, and we want to permanently appoint him and give him the security of this job. Item D, a resolution authorizing the purchase of parts from Seaward. Seaward is a vendor that we use regularly for pump parts. We regularly have specific types of pump, a Gorman-Rupp centrifugal pump that we use throughout. We have many of them in our system, and we regularly need to purchase parts on quick notice. If we've got a pump that goes down, we need to be able to get parts quick. Most parts require 6 months to get for some of these large pieces of equipment, and so this will help us to be able to get parts quick without having to go through a resolution for purchasing policy and have the parts on hand. And so we do this every year and work with Seaward Equipment for this resolution to be able to get parts quickly. Item E, a resolution appointing an equipment operator plant mechanic at the wastewater treatment plant. We've been searching for months to get a mechanic at the wastewater plant, and we've found a guy. He is very qualified, and he has accepted our offer to work for the town. And I'm very excited to have this resolution on the meeting. Item F, a resolution authorizing the equipment startup of the Milton Cat biogas generator at the wastewater treatment plant. With our biogas system up and running, we assistance getting this large piece of equipment running as was designed. We needed to bring in a factory technician from Milton Cat from out of town to come in and set this up so that it's running at the gas rates and efficiencies that it needs to run at. And so that was a significant cost to get that work done.
Do you see us getting on a maintenance contract with them at some point in time? Like a
We
yearly
actually
contract?
do have a regular maintenance contract with Milton Cat for both our diesel generator at our wastewater plant and our biogas generator. And so we do get regular oil changes and regular maintenance. This was specific. It required a lot more time, about 3 full days of staff on site, working with the machine, tuning it, and getting it to be running optimally.
This was where we had the leak last year that was fixed, and now it's working correct. Well, it's almost working correctly.
Yes, all the pipe is working. Yep, all the piping is working in our gas system. And when we had the media changed in our the filter there, the hydrogen sulfide scrubber, and so we're up and running. Today, I was actually working with a technician on the boiler in the digester room, getting that tuned properly, and so that's running on biogas right now as well.
So yeah, this is like
Yeah,
It's
I
big
got
one.
I
Thanks,
got a
Dan.
tour of the facility today. You know, it is quite remarkable, like what we have in a small town. And Dan's talking here about the biogas generator, which is the biogas that is coming off of the digesting of the solid waste and the Chobani, and then the biogas generator, and along with the heat exchanger, helps us power the wastewater treatment plant and reduces our electricity intake and natural gas intake. It's quite something.
Right. We use that biogas in some of the equipment that can use natural gas as well. Natural gas is our backup, but if we're already generating this biogas, that's pretty much free energy. And so we're rocking and rolling down there at the wastewater plant. Item G, a resolution authorizing the signing of an agreement with Carney One Corp to receive dairy waste at the wastewater treatment plant. This is the Chobani waste. We already receive whey from them. Okay, we receive it in 8,000 gallon tankers, about 10 to 13 of these trucks a week. The material whey that in their treatment process, they are at their factory, they are adding a reverse osmosis system, which they'll be able to treat their whey on site. And so we won't be receiving that anymore. They've indicated that in February that's going to be going away. And that's a big revenue stream that we've been seeing over the past couple years. I've talked with Carney is the hauler that we've been working with, and they've got another material there called DAF, dissolved air flotation, in their yogurt making facility, and it's a similar product, a little more tricky, a little more solids involved in it, and I've talked with them and negotiated, and it'll require a little more work on our end, and so we have come to an agreement on a price that will fairly compensate us, and it'll be approximately twice what we're getting for the whey.
Is this coming from the Chobani plant? I can't remember exactly where it is, but going west, right?
Yep.
In upstate. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it gets hauled, I don't know, hour and a half or so, 2 hours to get here. It's a big haul, and our facility is able to handle it just fine, and they recognize that, and we've got a good working agreement with them.
Do you know how many trucks that there will be?
We will be hauling about the same amount of trucks. So we're getting between 10 and 13 a week. And so we'll, as one whey truck goes out, we'll be replacing that with the DAF material. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
And economic development, planning and land use.
Okay. The first one is a reminder that we called for a public hearing on the adoption of the open meetings law remote attendance policy. So that will be there. The second one is a resolution to take action on a special use permit to have a house of worship and a single family home at 3406 Albany Street. The public hearing was held on December 18th. I do not believe anyone spoke, actually.
No.
And then you have your recommendations from the Planning Board and the Conservation Advisory Council. I talked about it a fair amount. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. C is a resolution appointing a member to the Complete Streets Committee, Cynthia Holmes. She's actually attended a lot of the Route 7 input meetings. She's been very helpful, very detailed, good communicator. So we reached out and she was willing to join. D is a resolution approving the list and setting TDE rates, or town designated engineers. These are engineers that the town hires on behalf of the town to review projects from developers. The developer does actually pay for them, but they are hired through us so that they represent us and do the reviews for us. And every year, obviously, their rates go up a little. So they're much better at raising their rates regularly than towns are. Anyway. E and F are both very tentative because I still have to review the grant requirements and the timelines to see if they're needed. But we are trying to apply for the Transportation Assistant Program grant again. That is going to be a real stretch. I'm not 100% sure we'll make it, but just in case, we're putting it on here. And then Ashok has been working with me on a DEC grant for the DEC's that allows towns to do land acquisition. It's 100% match. We don't need any match. It's 100% grant, which, you know, is like unheard of.
And
So
the
great.
grant pays for surveying, demarking,
Assessment.
assessment, everything. Like,
Mhm.
like it's like bad not to apply.
Yeah, it is. It does not work for easements, so it's fee simple transfer of land that remains forever wild, essentially.
And the deadline is extended to April 15th. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, how about that? That's good.
Yeah, that helps us.
Right? This is the grant we talked about where it's private land.
Right. Yep. So the idea is it's funded through the Environmental Bond Act that New York State passed, and the idea is to start preserving forest lands. They're very good. Actually, just preserving them helps with greenhouse gas emissions and resiliency in your community. So I think that's why they're doing it. You can develop trails and things like that. Just you can't like develop them actually like for softball fields and things like that. It's meant to stay natural.
Passive recreation.
Mm-hmm. Any questions on any of those?
Nope. I think we're good. Thank you, Laura. One thing I forgot to add in my section, not that it's like needs to be any longer. I mentioned that we had Troy and Banks that had done helped us with our agreement, franchise agreement. This is another company that does forensic bill auditing called EGS. What we would be doing is adding a resolution to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement. The first part is a letter of exclusivity, and the second part is a forensic bill auditing agreement. The town does not pay any money. We would get money back, and they receive their fees as a percent of the money that is returned. My biggest target here is going after our national grid bills. There are solar credits on there that are not easily understood, and I want more of an explanation on them. We also have solar projects around here that I would like them to help us organize so we can all understand them better. And I also, I've been harping on this since last year. We have a $40,000 annual bill to National Grid for the lighting on Route 7 that the town has to pay for. It is unmetered. A significant amount of those light poles don't work. And we have not been able to have a good conversation with them about right sizing that. So EGS has offered to help, and I'm pretty excited for that. So that's what this is. This was the piece of paper that I handed you. So this would be on for resolution for the end of the month as well. I just went through to make sure that it didn't overlap with our agreement with Troy and Banks. Troy and Banks would focus on telecommunications and internet utilities. This is going to be gas, electric, and other energy. So any questions on that, just let me know. They also have a bunch of contacts if you guys want to reach out with questions for them too. So I'm happy to forward over the email. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I want to add from the floor is a resolution to appoint our newest department head. Dan Bolke has been serving as our deputy and acting water and sewer superintendent. So from the floor, I'd like to add a resolution to appoint him as the water and sewer superintendent. Questions about that, just let me know. I hope we're all in agreement that he's been doing a great job. You're always doing a great job. So, so we'll add that as a resolution to appoint. Excuse me. Anybody else have anything? Are we good? This was good. This was a really long agenda. I feel like we motored through it too. So if you have questions, because we did go through it quickly, please let me know, let Kelly know. We've got backup that'll be coming, but if you want to review it in advance, we can send it over. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.